Hi guys, Steph here. So I've had a couple of people ask me if I would do a video on stamp information. So I thought I would. Before I do that, I also had a few people ask me when I had said I use dryer sheets for when I do embossing, heat embossing. The reason being is I don't feel like buying a expensive static cling thing for heat embossing. So if you take a regular dryer sheet and rub it on your paper, it will not do anything to the paper, I promise. You just rub it real good on the paper, and then you use your Versamark ink and stamp it, put your embossing powder on, and the embossing powder will only stick to the Versamagic ink. It won't stick to the paper. Like, if you don't do that, the static on the paper will make the embossing powder stick all over the paper, and you got to try and get it all off, and it's messy. And if you rub that dryer sheet on real quick, it will make it emboss beautifully. You won't have a mess. You flick it once on the back, and it all comes off the paper. So there's that answer. Okay, so next, the difference between mounted and unmounted stamps. This one here is an unmounted stamp. It is just the rubber stamp. This one here is mounted. It's the red rubber with foam on it. Mounted means it has foam. The reason being, here is a stamp block. If I try and pick up the plain rubber, it's not going to stick. If I try and pick up the foam, it sticks. The mounting foam is to make it stick to your acrylic block. Now, before I get on to mounting, what you want to do when you get a stamp like this is you want to trim it. And I will show you as best as I can. Let me move my camera here. Sorry, my phone's not going on. Okay. So I can have two hands, kind of. All right. Move this way. No, that's going to be too big for me. Sorry, guys. Trying to figure out the best way to film this. Okay. So, you don't want to turn your scissors out or in. You want to do it straight up and down. And I'm using my Tim Holtz scissors. So you want to use a really good pair of scissors. And get as close to the image as you can without cutting the actual image. And just go nice and slow. Because if you do not trim your image, what will happen is when you stamp it, let me just pull that off. When you stamp it, it'll have lines all around where, like, this part will get ink on it, and that'll stamp out. So you'll have little black lines all around it, which is fine if you plan on fussy cutting all your images. But if you don't, then you're going to definitely want to do that. So you want to make sure your scissors are straight up and down, because if they are tilted, you know, in or outwards, like you normally would cut, kind of, it can make it rock a little bit when you're stamping. So, and I know that there are a few other tutorials on trimming it that are at a better angle than mine is. But I know Amy R. has one, Paper, Prairie, and Ink. She has a great one. And you just want to get nice and close to the image. You don't have to go as close as I'm going, but I'm just going around. And on this side, I'll just kind of go close, but not too close. Turn that down. And go in a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to stay in frame, but it's hard at the angle on that, because I'm holding my tablet on my legs right now. And a little bit by the feet. Okay, let me pull this back. So now you have a trimmed stamp. Oh, dropping that even. There you go. And now when you stamp it, you won't have black lines all around it. It'll only ink up the actual image. Now, there's two options well, technically 3 options for mounting your unmounted stamp. Number 1 is what I used to do. I took one block and I put double-sided tape or like tack it over and over, and then you can stick your image to it and stamp it. I do like the foam because I feel it gives you a better impression for stamping. And then there's another one too, but here is some mounting foam. This is by Crafter's Companion, and it's called Easy Mount Stamp and Store. There we go, system. And both sides you peel, but what you would do is you would put your image down. This is what I do. And I lightly trace around with a pencil, about a square around it, cut that out. Then you'll see if you peel one side's super duper duper sticky. And if you slightly peel back the other side, it's not sticky at all, it's just shiny. You want to make sure, after you measure it and cut out your square, that you peel back the super sticky side. And then you're going to carefully put your stamp onto the sticky side. Then, after you do that, you can peel the other side off and then trim down around your stamp. And then your stamp is mounted. And the other way you can is, because this Easy Mount foam can get expensive. I know 1 to 2 sheets can go anywhere from $5 to $8, and it's an 8.5 by 11 sheet. So that does not go far if you have a lot of unmounted stamps. This I found at Joann's, and I know that Simon Says Stamp has it as well, and a few other places. It is from Sukunico, and it's called Reusable Cling Sheet Tack and Peel. And the reason I still have the packaging is because they give you a huge sheet, and I didn't need the whole thing, so I'm saving it. And what you do is you take an acrylic block, an extra one that you have, one that fits most of your unmounted stamps, and you're going to measure it onto the yellow sheet that's in here. And you unstick one side and stick it on your block, and then you have this, and it's hard to see, it's clear, but see that little bit on there? And then whenever you have to use it, you you peel off this little acetate piece. I'm having trouble one-handed. And then your unmounted stamp, it's very sticky, but it will not ruin your stamp. Unmounted stamp will stick perfectly to it to stamp. And when you're done, you peel it off and you put your acetate sheet back on. And if it loses its tackiness at all, you just wet it a little bit with some water, and that's it. 2 other questions I had real quick. Number 1 is, how do I clean my stamps? Most of my inks, I just use fragrance-free sensitive wipes, and I just clean them off. If it's a ink that is hard to clean, certain inks you'll see are hard to clean. I'll use my stamp scrubber and my ink stamp cleaner and my scrubber. If it is Stays-On ink, really the only way to get that off is to use the Stays-On ink cleaner. But other than that, for most of them, I just use fragrance-free baby wipes. And I buy, the cheapest ones, but I make sure that they are fragrance-free, these are cheapy ShopRite ones, because I don't want a bunch of chemicals that aren't necessary on my stamps. Last question I had was when fussy cutting. See here, I definitely did not cut it out perfectly, but what I do is normally I use my Memento black ink, a black marker, and you're just going to, let me line this up again, show you guys. You're going to hold it to the back. Let me move this back a little more. Okay, you're going to hold it to the back, because if you mess up, it's going to go on the back of the image and you won't see it. And you're just going to Sorry, I'm trying to hold this. Ah! They fell. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, let's try this again. So you're just going to gently rub it around. And that way when you, see, I messed up because I'm at a weird angle. But that way, wherever you messed up, cutting a little bit gets the black line as well, just like the stamping. And it also, when you put it on your card, it makes it look nice and neat and you don't have the white edges. So that's another thing I suggest. Here's one that I already put the black marker around. And see how it looks nice and perfectly cut. So hopefully that was all understandable. If you guys have any questions at all, please let me know. And I hope I answered everyone's questions that they asked me. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back with a little mini haul.